The poor dog boyfriend I've been talking about for 8 years is the real daughter of the richest man. Oh no, it's a real young master. The richest man asked him to take over the family business, marry by Fumai, and reach the pinnacle of life. One rainy night my boyfriend ran back to our rental house, crying a handful of snot and tears. I can't read the company's accounts. The fake young master still wants my dog's life. Those wealthy daughters only fancy my money, unlike you, who only covet my beauty. Woo woo, I don't want to live anymore. The richest man gave me money to persuade me to break up. The fake young master threw a check and asked me to assassinate my boyfriend. And the daughters gave me a card and asked me to stay away. They don't know that I used to pretend to be poor. When I was approached by Barton's family, Fabian Barton and I were nesting in the rental house, grabbed the same spicy soup. The bearded man, who claimed to be Barton's housekeeper, said that Fabian Barton went to the bathing center last week, and the bathing master was a former employee of Barton's family. The uncle recognized the birthmark on Fabian Barton's thigh with sharp eyes, as he rubbed it out with his hand, and secretly collected his hair. After a paternity test, Fabian Barton was the long-lost child of the richest Barton's family. Although Fabian Barton didn't believe it, when he heard the butler say that he would be punished if he didn't catch him, he relented and agreed to visit Barton's house. When I was about to go out, he pulled the threshold and told me repeatedly, "Leave me some soup." He has a father who is the richest man, and he still thinks about the soup in my bowl. That night, Barton's family threw a grand reception for Fabian Barton, which was attended by all the famous people in City A. Speaking to the media, Berg Barton was relieved to say that he finally had a successor. Fabian Barton was on this trip for 3 days, during which time I visited him at his school. His fellow disciples gathered around me and excitedly asked Mick Barton if he could sponsor some money for the lab after he became the son of the richest man. No matter how bad it is, it's okay to pay back the 1,000 yuan of food money that was owed to them last month. From their words, I learned that Fabian Barton didn't come to school these days. He is still in graduate school, and although he does not have many classes, he goes out to school every day in order to rub the air conditioning and water in the laboratory. When I saw Fabian Barton again, he was wearing a well-fitting suit, broad shoulders and long legs, and a pair of slender and deep eyes, shining with stars under gold wire glasses. However, I still think it is more pleasing for him to wear a couple's outfit of 30 yuan apiece in the underground mall. Fabian Barton raised his hand and pushed the frame, raised an eyebrow at me, lowered his voice and said in a bubble voice, "Baby, I'm coming to pick you up." According to his words, if a person can't ascend to heaven if he attains the Tao, then he, a rich man, is really boring. On the way to Barton's house, Fabian Barton complained about what had happened to him in the past few days. As soon as he went back, his mobile phone was confiscated, and a group of people surrounded him to change and recognize his relatives. Look at what this is for me. It's clear that the plaid shirt is more in line with my temperament. I'm out of fashion anymore. I took my nymphomaniac gaze off him, and silently wiped my saliva. Yes, 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 it is in line with the temperament of your Dick Silk science and engineering man. Also, there are too many relatives in the Barton family. They all look similar. I called my father by face blind several times, and I was locked up in the room to memorize the family tree, and I didn't give food if I couldn't finish memorizing. Fabian Barton said as he grabbed my hand on his cheek, and said in a long voice, "You see, I've lost weight." His hands are clean and slender. He can faintly see the green tendons, and there are thin cocoons sharpened on his fingertips when he plays all year round, which is simply a fairy product. The long eyelashes flickered, and under the tall nose were thin lips that were watercolored, and he frowned, and I felt pity. Such a handsome guy. I was actually talking about it. I couldn't hold back the corners of my mouth twitching and laughing. "You're still laughing." Fabian Barton looked like the sky was falling. Okay, didn't I come to accompany you?" I soothed the hair on the top of his head. He had to kiss him to get rid of his anger, and the end result was that I almost ran out of oxygen. "You took good care of Fabian Barton for the previous 8 years." Sitting in my study, Berg Barton acknowledged my past efforts. Fabian Barton and I looked at each other and smiled, and he secretly took my hand from behind, ready to receive the blessings of the elders together. The corners of Berg Barton's mouth twitched downward, and the words shifted. However, your identity is not enough to be the daughter-in-law of our Barton family. My heart chilled. Still, I'm willing to give you a chance. My heart is hot again. But, I immediately raised my hand to stop Berg Barton's mindset, and asked him what he wanted. You can stay with Fabian Barton if you want, but you can only be his nanny, and still take care of his daily life. I was just about to express my displeasure when I saw his old man raise 5 fingers. 50,000 a month. Well, it's not like I can't earn this nest fee. Fabian Barton stopped doing it first. He pulled me over, protected me behind him, and glared angrily at the superior. Neither humble nor arrogant, if being your son is to be separated from Lunomilian, then I would rather not have this family, this situation and this scene. It seems that I have seen it in ancient idol dramas. I patted Fabian Barton on the shoulder, trying to persuade him to say something good and not to be harsh at every turn. But Berg Barton didn't laugh angrily. You still plan to go back to that semi-underground rental house that doesn't see the light of day and live a headache for food? I think I'm willing to spend any time with Lunomilian. The corners of my mouth twitched, but he was still dead-headed. But since Fabian Barton has blocked other paths, I can only stand with him steadfastly. Anyway, as long as you are with him, you can live any life. Berg Barton sighed helplessly. It's not that I have to break you up. It's just that Fabian Barton, you have already made a baby kiss with the youngest daughter of the Million family, when you were born, and our Barton family can't be untrustworthy. Berg Barton praised the Million girl to the sky, and Fabian Barton didn't respond. But I was a little moved. Father, a crisp voice came from outside the study door. I subconsciously looked back at the person. The man at the door was wearing a black shirt, cold and noble, with a sickly pale face, and his good-looking eyebrows and eyes were blocked under bangs. Their Barton family is really Shasha. Fabian Barton squeezed my palm dissatisfiedly, and glared at me with a pout. The person who can call Berg Barton his father is his adopted son, Mick Barton. Didn't the young lady of the Million family disappear 10 years ago? Even if my brother wants to withdraw from the marriage, I guess the Million family can't refuse. That's right, I'm going to get out of the marriage. Fabian Barton immediately followed suit. Berg Barton looked like he had a terrible headache, and pointed one finger at me, and another at Fabian Barton. The bodyguard outside the door immediately rushed in, pulled the two of us apart, and Fabian Barton was sent back to his luxurious bedroom. I was thrown out of Barton's house. When I become the head of the family in the future, I will also learn Berg Barton's one-finger zen. I think when I was with Fabian Barton, I never thought that we would live a miserable life. The clean and warm smile of the teenager under the camphor tree ran through my entire youth. And we were together in the hot summer after the college entrance examination. And we have never been separated since. He was an orphan and relied on state subsidies for all his living expenses. And after he went to university, he received some tutoring subsidies for daily use. And for some reason, I have to pay for my tuition and fees on my own. So the two of us have been living tightly. After he went to graduate school, I went to work in his city. I had a fixed salary. He had a monthly subsidy. So I used the extra money to rent a house outside the school. We agreed to buy a house of our own in this city, and we wanted to split $1 into 2 parts. The money is all in my name, and now I have more than 100,000 yuan, but it is far from enough to buy a house. At night, I flipped through my passbook and looked at it, and I could clearly remember the scene with every money in it, but now, it doesn't seem to be needed much. I hadn't seen Fabian Barton for a few days after I left the Barton house, and it was like he never existed if it weren't for his belongings in the house. When my best friend Sophia found out about this, she went straight to my house. She carried her backpack and laid out her gear in front of me. Hiking boots, climbing ropes. Your company recently gave you the job of cleaning the windows of the building? I asked. Sophia put a hard hat on my head and smiled crookedly. Let's go. Let's get Mick Barton out. According to her words, Barton's beating of Mandarin ducks is really hateful, and she will protect our love to the end. At night we climbed into Barton's house and rescued Fabian Barton. And if anyone stopped me, you must leave me alone. I was amused by her serious look, and took off my hard hat. You think you're making a TV series? If he comes up with it, there's always a way. Unless he himself doesn't want to come out. On this day, I went out to take out the garbage and met Mick Barton. as if he were waiting for me there on purpose. He leaned against the door of a Maybach, and waited for me to approach with a detached smile on his lips. Sister-in-law, he called me and opened the door for me, sitting in the co-pilot of Mick Barton. He got straight to the point, this time. I came mainly to visit my sister-in-law on behalf of my brother. Is he lame or crippled? And can he do this kind of thing? Mick Barton's face turned pale, and then explained, my brother has been taking over the company's affairs recently, but I, an idler, have nothing to do all day, so I can only do something for my brother to reassure him. How do I feel? That there is a faint smell of tea in the air. If you really want to help him, you might as well give him your phone, and let him contact me directly. Mick Barton looked embarrassed. I'm an adopted son, and I can't speak at Barton's house, and my father won't let me get close to my brother, so I'm afraid I won't be able to help with that. Mick Barton told me that Fabian Barton now has a small amount of money from his owner, and he donated 10 million to his alma mater's laboratory with a wave of his hand. Indeed, as he said, a man ascended to heaven. I decided to think carefully about Sophia's plans, as Fabian Barton had been missing for 10 days. As soon as it's time to get off work, I pick up my bag, and get ready to slip away. And staying for an extra minute is disrespectful to getting off work. The disrespectful team leader managed to block me in the elevator. Lunamelian, you have a client to meet with me tonight. Leader, I made an appointment. You can find someone else. The location of the hotel has been sent to you. Wait for your drive. Dog leader, thunder and thunder. The world is really small, and the customer I want to meet tonight is the head of the subsidiary of the Barton family group. With his back against the big tree, he pretended to be forced, and the person in charge dragged 2,580,000 yuan from sitting down, and he ordered expensive points. I will tell the leader with practical actions that he chose me to accompany the customer, and he is unlucky. The dishes were all ready. I only held the chopsticks and made a fuss, and finally the leader directly confiscated my chopsticks. Oh, I can't afford to play. The employees of your company are really good looking. Unlike our company, which doesn't even allow a female secretary to be used. Neron's gaze on the other side was sinister at me. How so? Neron, your former female secretary, the leader asked. Our new Fabian Barton. I don't want to use a female secretary, and I also make a rule that all secretaries are not allowed to be of the opposite sex, and it's really boring to work every day. The leader looked like a thief, and he didn't hold back any good farts at first glance, and immediately pushed me out. Our company is very serious about this project, Lunamelian, and you're following Neron these days. That sold me, or in front of me. Neron, with the tacit approval of the leader, became even more unscrupulous and blocked me directly at the door of the bathroom. Neron, drunk, was about to put the pig's hand on me. Neron, why are you here? A crisp voice came from behind, and Mick Barton walked over and stood side by side with me. Neron's face changed as soon as he saw Mick Barton. Mick Barton, Lunamelian is my friend, and if you don't respect her, you don't respect me. Neron immediately laughed. Misunderstanding. It's all misunderstanding. He kept apologizing to me, and found a chance to slip away. Mick Barton said softly, my brother is in this shop. Are you going to meet him? Their Barton family regarded him like a national treasure. How could they let me see him so easily? There is definitely a fraud. Okay, I'll go. Mick Barton led me upstairs to a private room, where there was only one table of guests on this floor. Through the stained glass window, I could see Fabian Barton sitting with a glamorous woman in the dim and romantic candlelight. Dine together. Sister-in-law, listen to my explanation. My brother is also forced to be helpless. It was my father who arranged for my brother to go on a blind date, and the other party's family background is comparable to Barton's family, and my father is very satisfied with her. I know her, the newcomer Xiao Hua, who is very much talked about right now. Prima Parker. She is the adopted daughter of the Bai group. She has the entire Parker family behind her as a backer, and she has many first-line actresses as soon as she debuted. Resources that are not available. Although Parker's family has a big business, the inheritance of property has nothing to do with her. In order to maintain her current wealth, the safest way to live is to catch a golden beetle as soon as possible. It was clear that Fabian Barton was the right person for the job. Fabian Barton looked very reserved, looking out the window from time to time, not noticing us. Prima Parker got up and walked over to us, smiling distantly at Mick Barton when she saw him. Mick Barton, is this your friend? Her unfriendly gaze wandered over me, and at last she pulled out a contemptuous smile. Mick Barton, although you are only the adopted son of the Barton family, you also represent the face of the Barton family after all, and you should be cautious in choosing a mate. She looked down on Mick Barton, an adopted son with no real power, and even less on the shabby dressed woman next to him, because security suddenly came in to clear the scene. I was kicked out before I could meet Fabian Barton. I rejected Mick Barton's offer to take me home, and waited alone on the side of the road for the bus. The bus is slow and goes around half the city. When I got out of the car, it suddenly started to rain, which matched my mood at this time. On the way, I passed a Malatang restaurant that Fabian Barton and I frequented, and I was going to go in to hide from the rain, but I saw two familiar figures in the store through the window. Fabian Barton brought Prima Parker to the store. You two are so good at eating. There were no security guards nearby, and the person I wanted to meet was just across the door, but I didn't have the courage to push open the door. I'm afraid that when I go in, all the comforting words I have said will become a joke. When I ran home, I was already drenched in soup, so I hurried to take a shower. Just as I was taking a shower, I heard a series of hurried knocks on the door. When I saw the person in the cat's eye, I quickly opened the door. Fabian Barton was drenched, dripping down her wet hair and her long eyelashes, her wet eyes looking at me affectionately. Lunamelian, I'm finally home. He hugged me, and warm liquid slid down my neck. You're in the rain. Go take a hot shower. I nudged him. Let's wash together. This bath lasted 2 hours. I leaned against the window and drank the brown sugar water Fabian Barton poured me. Why did you come back? As soon as he talked about what happened in the past few days, Fabian Barton's eyes were faintly red, and he complained indignantly. I can't read the company's accounts. Mick Barton still wants my dog's life. Those wealthy daughters only fancy my money, unlike you, who only covet my beauty. He cupped my face and sniffed. It's not like you, who only coveted my beauty from beginning to end. I see you're enjoying it, and you're dating a female celebrity. Fabian Barton jumped to his feet. That's my soft policy. He agreed to go on a blind date with Prima Parker, and took her to the Malatang restaurant we frequented, and asked the owner to help him escape through the back door. After escaping, he went straight back to the rental house. What did you say Mick Barton wanted your life for? At the mention of him, Fabian Barton's face sank. A few days ago, when I was inspecting the construction site, I almost fell down the stairs, and someone broke the supporting wood on the stairs, and I also suspect that it was his hands and feet. Fabian Barton said. What exactly does Mick Barton want to do? I slipped into Fabian Barton's arms, and hugged him tighter. Are you going back to Barton's house? Then, if you don't go back, you won't be able to go back if you are killed. I guess the Barton family wouldn't let Fabian Barton go so easily. But I didn't expect Berg Barton to come to the rental house himself. He sat on our red plastic bench in a name tag, looking out of place in the room. I don't know which master pointed out Berg Barton, but he changed his attitude towards me, and accepted that we were together. Dad is old and just wants to be accompanied by his relatives for the rest of his life. Your mother has left me. Do you want to abandon me too? It only took Berg Barton a short time to understand Fabian Barton's temperament, and know that he was the kindest of all. Lunamelian, do you want to go back with me? As long as you don't want to, I'll stay with you and go anywhere. Fabian Barton took my hand tightly and whispered my opinion. You go home with Berg Barton first. I still have some things to take care of. I'll go to you when it's settled. Berg Barton gave him back his cell phone, and promised not to interfere with his freedom in the future, allowing us to meet whenever we wanted. I packed Fabian Barton back into the car, and when the car was out of sight, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Bartoli, let's meet. Mom, I'm your grandfather's personal secretary. Bartoli, your grandfather's inheritance is at your disposal, but you never came to me. I took a document that Bartoli handed me, with my grandfather's signature on the last page. Bartoli pushed his glasses and said with relief, "You finally come to me, and I've finally lived up to your grandfather's promise. I'll go back tomorrow, and get back what my grandfather left me." Reuben Million, Alice Bruno. We're meeting again. I submitted my resignation letter to the company and went to Yangzhou alone with my luggage. Today, the Million family is bustling with activity, celebrating the birthday of my half-sister Polly Million. Obviously, my presence has brought the atmosphere of the banquet to a freezing point. My stepmother, Alice Bruno, was the first to recognize me. Her expression was like a ghost, and she was stunned for a few seconds before pretending to be enthusiastic and greeted me. I'm tired. Hurry back to my room and rest. Alice Bruno didn't seem to want me to show up at the party. She didn't want to, and I didn't follow her. I went back to my room and changed into a dress, and met with my little hairy boys, and got some news from them. It turned out that it was Million's big day, and Barton's family would be attending Polly Million's birthday party. The marriage between the youngest daughter of the Million family and the Barton family was set by Mr. Su at the time, and now Alice Bruno wants to steal the pillar and let her own daughter marry her. Her mother destroyed other people's families as a junior, and she also robbed other people's fiancés. All of them are the same shameless goods. They kicked you out of the house to rob you. My friends were upset about me. As they spoke, Alice Bruno and Reuben Million hurried towards the gate. Apparently the Barton family had arrived. Fabian Barton followed Berg Barton, and was the center of attention as soon as he appeared. Across the crowd, I felt a fiery gaze fall on me. Fabian Barton walked up to me with a smile, but was stopped halfway by Alice Bruno. Alice Bruno's skeptical gaze wandered between me and Fabian Barton. You know, of course, our relationship isn't ordinary, I whispered into Alice Bruno's ear. Her face was instantly unsightly. Today, Berg Barton brought Fabian Barton for nothing more than a marriage to the Million family. The two elders coincided and didn't want the other to know my identity, so they tacitly didn't ask each other. Berg Barton called me out alone with a cold face, and Fabian Barton wanted to stay with him, but I insisted that he stay. There are some things that I can handle on my own, as long as you can leave my son. The conditions are yours. It was just me and Berg Barton in the car, and he finally let out his trump card. Since Berg Barton has said it, I'm welcome. I heard that you bought an island a few years ago, and I like that place very much. The corners of Berg Barton's mouth twitched. There is an entertainment company under the Barton Group, and I like the little fresh meat in the company very much. So why don't you give me the company? That entertainment company has become the head of the industry, and it is a cash cow that can make money lying down. The corners of Berg Barton's mouth twitched again. I still want some shares in the Barton family's group. Not much. Just give it to me. I was counting my fingers when Berg Barton snorted angrily and immediately drove the door away. How to go? I haven't finished yet. I was just about to get out of the car when I saw Mick Barton walking towards me. Well, I just solved the old one, and here comes the small one. Mick Barton got into the car and smiled coldly, and I guessed that this kid must not be holding back his fart. Sister-in-law, why are you here? Come and hang out with relatives. Fortunately, Mick Barton just casually asked, and immediately cut to his topic. My brother came to Yangzhou this time just to marry Million's family, and my father won't give you anything. Sister-in-law, I really feel sorry for you, pretending to be a good person again. You're here to gloat. No, I'm on your side. Mick Barton's eyes were full of hidden hatred. Don't you hate your brother? What can I do if I hate him? Can I still kill him? Why not? Mick Barton was almost insane, his pale cheeks a little slumped in the night. Whoever is sorry for you should let him disappear from this world. After the deed is completed, I will give you both the island and the shares. It seems that he had installed a monitor in the car, and must have been planning to do something to Fabian Barton for a long time. The last time I was at the construction site, I guess it was really his handiwork. The top priority is to stabilize him first. Murder is illegal. Big brother, aren't you a wealthy family? Isn't killing people still a matter of your fingers? I want to test how much he is capable of now. I'm just rich and not the underworld. You take money to do things. Do you want me to help you find a way? Mick Barton stumbled on his legs, and he really thought of himself as an uncle. Is this your attitude of asking people to do things? Mick Barton, what are you barking at a dog? You have to listen to me if you want to make it happen. He was stunned by my yelling, and then obediently listened to me talk about the plan. Mick Barton and I made a perfect revenge plan. Fabian Barton's first project will take over next month. At that time, The media and industry bigwigs will be invited to the company to witness the signing ceremony. At the press conference, Mick Barton kidnapped me and tricked Fabian Barton into killing me. The two of us laughed in unison. Back at the banquet, Polly Million was pestering Fabian Barton. A cheap sister, is bent on marrying into a wealthy family, and wants to fly up from Million's family to another level. Fabian Barton saw me and immediately leaned in. Where have you been? I've been looking for you just now. Polly Million hated to stare me out of the two holes. She wasn't sure about the relationship between the two of us, and she didn't dare to rush over. I had to let Fabian Barton talk to me. At night, Reuben Million called me to the study, and as soon as I entered, I saw that Alice Bruno and her daughter were there. You don't say anything in advance when you come back. There's no rules. Reuben Million spoke reproachfully. Other fathers will miss their daughters if they haven't seen them for a few years. But my biological father only cares about his face. It doesn't matter. My dad at heart died the same the year my mom died. Sister, don't you just want the property of the Million family? Give you all my share. You can give me Fabian Barton. I really like him. Polly Million clutched her heart and begged me with a weak look. The Million family's property and Fabian Barton are mine, and we can't talk about one for the other. Reuben Million heard me and smashed the cup on his desk. I'm still alive, and you want to take the family property? I sat down on the couch next to me, and I just thought it was funny. Father, I'm an adult, and the shares you have managed over the years should be returned to me. Reuben Million's expression was a little empty. I was a minor when my grandfather passed away, so the shares he left me were held by a guardian. Now that I am an adult, according to my will, I should get back the shares my grandfather gave me, and become the largest shareholder of the Million family. I had planned to wait for Fabian Barton to graduate and then do it, but now that he's back at Barton's house, I don't have any scruples. Now the house you live in, the car you sit in, and the antiques and jewels you have in your house are all in my name according to the law. Do you need to call Bartoli now? Because of his father's cheating in marriage and forcing his wife to die, his grandfather was very disappointed in his father. I was brought up by my grandfather, and he left all the Million family property to me. Now Polly Million's dream of a wealthy lady has not yet been realized, and her daughter has done it again, and she is the first to collapse. She cried and asked Reuben Million what was going on, and shouted that she didn't want to live. Alice Bruno also tugged at Reuben Million and asked him for an explanation. Didn't you say that as long as the old man dies, this home is yours? And now what's going on with the will? That dead girl said. I knew I would. Alice Bruno suddenly realized that I was still there, and immediately stopped talking. What was she trying to say? I seriously suspect that Grandpa's death had something to do with Alice Bruno. Although Grandpa is old, he has always been in good health, and it was only half a year after Alice Bruno moved here that Grandpa began to get sick. It didn't take long for him to die. If it was really her doing, I would never let her go. I wasn't in the mood to watch the family put on a bloody show, so I told Reuben Million that I would talk to Bartoli about the handover of the property tomorrow. As I was leaving, I suddenly looked back at Polly Million with a smile. By the way, sister, I advise you not to pretend to be half dead next time you see Barton's family. Berg Barton shouldn't want to find a sick daughter-in-law. Polly Million's face turned pale with anger, and she covered her heart and rolled her eyes and fainted, so frightened that Reuben Million hurried to help her. She has liked to pretend to be sick since she was a child, but she really became a sick person by pretending to be a sick man. Bartoli was a confidant of my grandfather, and quickly helped me get things done. Reuben Million was a bale of straw when he was young, an old bale when he was old, and he was no match for Bartoli at all. But now that the old house is occupied by their family, Bartoli asks me what to do with it. I was very unhappy with my old house, and didn't have any nostalgia for it, so I asked Bartoli to help me put it up for sale, and within 3 days, it was bought by an out-of-town buyer. Reuben Million moved out with Alice Bruno, mother and daughter, threatening to skin me if they found me. However, I had already left Yangzhou at this time, and it was indeed a little difficult for him to find me. Fabian Barton sent a message saying that he had come to pick me up at the airport, but when I got out of the airport, I found an uninvited guest in his car, Prima Parker. Fabian Barton couldn't come to an impromptu meeting, and his driver took it upon himself to bring Prima Parker to meet me. Prima Parker wore elaborate makeup and dressed like she was going to the red carpet. The last time we met, I thought your target was Mick Barton, but I didn't expect you to have a big appetite. And the real target turned out to be Fabian Barton. Prima Parker squinted at me throughout. Here's 30 million, and an unlimited black card. As long as you leave Fabian Barton. She pushed the envelope in front of me. It's all yours. You said that there are 30 million, which is enough for her to start her own business from scratch. Why did you hang yourself from the Fabian Barton tree? Prima Parker, in order to avoid unnecessary disputes, could you please specify the duration and distance of this departure, and how to define it if Fabian Barton has to pester me? Prima Parker didn't expect me to say that, a little stunned. After a while, Prima Parker said, as long as you disappear from him, I can be sure that I can get his heart. I took the envelope and told Fabian Barton's driver to make sure he got Prima Parker back to the office. As for me, of course I have to disappear cleanly after taking other people's money. I haven't seen Fabian Barton since that day. He went crazy and brought people to find me, and even live streamed his wife's search on the internet. Someone in the live broadcast room asked about the story between us, and Fabian Barton said a lot intermittently, and many netizens were moved by our story. For a while, the whole city set off a search for Lunamillion, and the places we went to became internet celebrity check-in spots. Fabian Barton said in the live broadcast room that the first project he took over was about to be signed, and he hoped that I would show up on the day of the signing. And he had a surprise for me. I didn't have to wait to go to his signing ceremony because I had just been kidnapped that day. According to the original plan, I would indeed be tied up, but I'm actively tied up and I'm passively tied up are two different things. Inside the abandoned factory, Mick Barton laughs wildly. Mick Barton, what are you doing? Aren't you talking about putting on a show? I was tied to a broken chair, and two thugs were watching me with electric batons. Mick Barton, a bad seed, is not only bad, but also keeps his promises. He stared at me with a sad look and said, because I want to see my brother go crazy for you and can't save you, like something I have at my fingertips, and suddenly becomes his. Mick Barton pulled out his phone, pointed the camera at me, and dialed Fabian Barton. His gloomy face gripped into a maniacal smile the moment he saw Fabian Barton answer the phone. Brother, look who I brought here. It's the sister-in-law you've been looking for lately. Mick Barton, you don't want to touch her. Where you are, I'll come right over. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the old factory was kicked open by Fabian Barton. He appeared so quickly that Mick Barton didn't even react. I smirked. Fabian Barton's acting skills on the phone were really good. This can't be. How can you find this place so quickly? Mick Barton was shocked. Fabian Barton and I exchanged glances, and I immediately said, I have the company's new women's security protection app, She's Coming, on my phone, and I can send real-time locations to emergency contacts as soon as I say the keyword. Fabian Barton went on to say, and there is also a voice alarm function to provide assistance for users in different scenarios. Mick Barton roared, there's something wrong with you too. Reading an advertisement. Fabian Barton held up his phone and rushed the camera to Mick Barton. Brother, let's say hello to my friends in front of the camera. As soon as Mick Barton tried to get the thugs in the way, several police officers rushed in and subdued them to the ground. Mick Barton was convicted of kidnapping, and the other two could not escape. He didn't realize until the moment he was taken away that it was all a game set up by me and Fabian Barton. Why do they think that a few provocative words from outsiders can shake the 8-year relationship between Fabian Barton and me? Fabian Barton's first project was to develop a new piece of software, which is what he meant. We were both struggling to build momentum for the software launch, and Mick Barton sent him ahead. Mick Barton was handcuffed, and he still shouted at me, what's the use of you doing so much for him? It's not like you can't get through Barton's door. I took Fabian Barton's arm and smiled. I forgot to introduce myself, but my real name is Nancy Million, the youngest daughter of the Million family, who has been engaged to Fabian Barton since childhood. Is me. 10 years ago, after her grandfather's death, Alice Bruno wanted to clean up the portal. With the help of my mother's old friend, I left Million's house and changed my name, and I really planned to never return to Million's house at that time. I told Fabian Barton, who I was before I went to Yangzhou, was able to get it back to Million's house smoothly, and he secretly helped a lot. He didn't worry about me going back to Yangzhou alone, so he told Berg Barton to go to the banquet together, and he sat in the car and stayed outside Million's old house for the rest of the night. The number of live broadcasts on the day of the kidnapping topped the list, and the number of downloads of the software also exceeded 100 million within a week. At the celebratory banquet, Fabian Barton proposed to me. Because of what happened before, Berg Barton felt very embarrassed, put aside his words and said that he would no longer care about our business, so he went on vacation abroad with his old partner, and handed over the company to Fabian Barton. Prima Parker asked me to get the 30 million back, and she said that she had no money to buy a bag, and she didn't dare to tell her family that she had done such a ridiculous thing. I thought about it and asked the secretary to draw up a contract for her as an image spokesperson. Give our app endorsement. Advertising costs 30 million. Prima Parker tearfully took back her $30 million. Half a year later, Bartoli contacted me out of the blue. I asked him to help me investigate the cause of my grandfather's death, and he had new evidence. The nanny who helped in my house said that my grandfather was suffering from a chronic disease at that time, and as long as he took good care of it, he would definitely live a long life. But Alice Bruno often does what the doctor tells not to touch, and she doesn't dare to take care of the owner's business as a nanny. Coincidentally, this nanny also helped out at Barton's house. Back then, the young master of the Barton family was not lost by himself, but by his mother. The nanny said that Mrs. Barton had postpartum depression after giving birth to the child, and she went to many doctors and never got better. No one watched that day. She went out alone with Fabian Barton in her arms, and neither mother nor son ever came back. Mrs. Barton's body was found by the river, soaked and swollen, but surveillance showed that she was the only one who jumped into the river. Barton's family felt embarrassed, so they blocked the news, dismissed a group of employees, and the nanny went to Million's house. Alice Bruno was sent to prison for intentional homicide, and Ruben Million came to me several times to try to fix the father-daughter relationship. But just because he is still with Xiao San in front of my mother's hospital bed, I will not forgive him in this life. Fabian Barton and I went back to high school for the wedding photo shoot. During my first month of transferring to a public high school, my life was almost a mess. Although my mother's friend helped me escape from Million's house, I was under pressure to live on my own. A child who has never left home in his teens, recklessly and hitting walls everywhere. Fabian Barton was my tablemate. He didn't like to talk, and he blushed when he teased. We didn't communicate much, but every night when I was hungry, I always found milk in the belly of the table, which he saved. When we had a parent-teacher conference, the parents of other students were with us, and we sat alone, but he smirked heartlessly, patted me on the head with my report card, said that I did well in the exam this time, and invited me to a big meal with the money he had saved for half a year. When I was filling in the volunteer, he ran back and forth with the teacher, and asked the teacher how to choose the best university and the best major for me. The teacher asked him where he wanted to go, and he didn't want to say what city Lunomillion was. In those years when I had nothing, I was fortunate to have Fabian Barton, who really took good care of me. We are each other's chosen family, real family. The end.